In the immortal words of Blake Anderson's soundboard, it's science. And welcome back to the Fallout universe. This is an energy counter-based deck with Dr. Madison Lee at the helm. We're going to break it down for you, and then we're going to build it right back up for all you bros out there interested in doing some science with a beautiful lady. Listen, man, I want to empower the ladies in my life to do science if they want to, and that's better, Commander, dude. Lift up the people around you, like and subscribe and all that stuff while you're at it, brother. Alright, let's start off with the new commanders that can helm this deck. Dr. Madison Lee. Blue, red, and white for a legendary creature, Human Scientist. It's a 2/3. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, you get an energy counter. Tap, pay an energy, target creature gets +1/+0 and gains trample and haste until end of turn. That's pretty nice. Tap and pay 3 energy, draw a card. Tap and pay 5 energy, return target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Pretty fantastic mix of energy abilities. The Doctor here is great at generating energy and utilizing it for value. We've never seen a proper energy commander, and the Doctor here is a great enabler. And also new to this deck, we have Liberty Prime recharged. 2 blue, red, and white for a legendary artifact creature robot. It's an 8/8 with vigilance, trample, and haste. Whenever Liberty Prime recharge attacks or blocks, sacrifice it unless you play 2 energy counters. Has 2 and tap, sacrifice an artifact, you get 2 energy counters and draw a card. Democracy is non-negotiable. I like to use the Liberty Prime voice whenever we talk about robots taking our jobs, you know, like a robot doctor or something. You have 15 minutes left to live. I remember riding on this thing in Fallout 3, I believe it was Fallout 3. This can be your commander, but really needs a consistent source of energy generation to be viable. And that kind of either relies on Dr. Madison Lee or some pretty crappy cards. Great beater if you have the energy to bash in. Alright, let's talk about some new cards here. I'm not going to go over every one because that's boring, dude. You guys want to get to the good stuff upgrading this bad boy, but we all want to know what's new here. Now, there are a few clunky legends like Arcade Ganon. It's a 4-mana looter, doesn't have haste, and is getting quest counters to bring stuff back from the graveyard. If this guy was 2 mana, I'd be all over it, but I think it's a bit too slow. We also have Elder Owen Lyons. Pretty cool fella here. Artifacts get Ward 1 and he gets stuff back to the hand from the graveyard, but again, not really doing enough, and isn't an artifact so it won't trigger Dr. Lee. Now this one's interesting. Sentinel Sarah Lyons. 3 red and a white for a legendary creature, Human Knight. It's a 4/4 with haste. As long as an artifact entered the battlefield under your control this turn, creatures you control get +2/+2. Has Battalion. Whenever Sentinel Sarah Lyons and at least 2 other creatures attack, the Sentinel deals damage equal to the number of artifacts you control to target player. This is actually pretty nice. Not sure why she's got the face of Dolph Lundgren, but that's a question for the Rocky fans out there. The art is ugly as hell. Sorry, David Estruga. Anyways, man, the card is pretty nice in an artifact deck and actually helps us to win the game at some point. Curie Emergent Intelligence. 1 and a blue for a legendary artifact creature robot. It's a 1/3. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw cards equal to its base power. Doesn't sound very good on its face, but has 1 and a blue, exile another non-token artifact you control. Curie becomes a copy of the exiled creature, except it has, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw cards equal to its base power. This is better in the game than it looks. If you have some beefy flyers or evasive tramplers, this can be activated at instant speed, so if somebody targets your Liberty Prime, just swap out Curie. It's probably worth it to exile a little 2-mana artifact flyer too, like Enthusiastic Mechanaut, which we're going to add to this deck. T45 Power Armor. This is going to be awesome, right? Well, 2 generic mana for an artifact equipment. When it enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy counters. Equipped creature gets +3/+3 and doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may pay an energy. If you do, untap equipped creature, then put your choice of a Menace, Trample, or Lifelink counter on it. Has equipped for 3. Why are we looking up the Power Armors box here, dude? I don't know. But this is another weird, clunky card. In an energy deck with Dr. Lee at the helm, you know, this can untap pretty easily for at least 3 turns. In combination with Dr. Lee's abilities, this is fine in a modified Precon meta. Would I rather just have this? Yeah. James Wandering Dad. I have a lot of feelings about this guy. I mean, what if he was James, but there for your child dad? Maybe have a catch with your son James or something like that, you know, instead of wandering around. I kicked this guy right out of the deck. He's clunks and bunks and skunks, man. This is what's wrong with America. There's no dads, brother. Nick Valentine's a pretty cool card. Has some really amazing art. He's got a lot of swag. He's a detective. He's got a sweet lady by his side back there. Nick Valentine Private Eye can't be blocked except by artifact creatures. Whenever Nick Valentine or another artifact creature you control dies, you may investigate. So you get to create a little clue. Not bad. Alright, check out this guy. Rex the Cyberhound is 3 mana for a 2/2 robot dog. The only acceptable robot as far as I'm concerned. Whenever Rex Cyberhound deals combat damage to a player, they mill 2 cards and you get 2 energy counters. Pay 2 energy, choose target creature card in a graveyard. Exile it with a brain counter on it. Activate only as a sorcery. Rex has all activated abilities of all cards in exile with brain counters on it. Wish people at Walmart had brain counters, dude. This is another way to utilize energy. It's graveyard hate. Maybe you can snipe an activated ability out of the yard too. Neat little card, man. Needs a little evasion though. Robo Brain Warmind is a 4 mana artifact. It's a robot. Its power is equal to the number of cards in your hand, has toughness 5. When it enters the battlefield, you get an amount of energy equal to the number of artifact creatures you control. Whenever this guy attacks, you may pay 3 energy. If you do, draw a card. Interesting, and again, no evasion, but Dr. Lee can give him haste and trample. Behemoth of Vault 0, 6 generic mana for an artifact creature robot. It's a 6/6 with trample. When it enters the battlefield, you get 4 energy counters, and when it dies, you may pay an amount of energy equal to target non-land permanent's mana value. When you do destroy that permanent. Well, at least this guy can beat in and deal some damage, you know, something this deck kinda lacks. And last but certainly not least, the Pridewen, Steel Flagship. This is a flying 6/6. Whenever another non-token artifact enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 white human knight creature token with this creature gets +2/+2 as long as an artifact entered the battlefield under your control this turn. Little clunky there, has crew for 2. And it's a 6/6, you know, it's pretty beefy. That crew 2 isn't terrible. Later on in this game, this is creating a little army as you blast artifacts onto the battlefield. Reprints. Alright, this deck has some decent reprints, but nothing earth-shattering, which is disappointing considering how stacked the last batch of Precons was. I will say the Fallout theme is there with all the new art, so that's good, you know what I mean? But I wish this had some like high-value reprints. Lightning Greaves is great in this deck, pretty much any deck. Mystic Forge and Panharmonicon are both commander staples. Panharmonicon's about $5. It's a pretty incredible card. Interacts with the commander pretty nicely. Mechanized Production just got reprinted down to the bulk level, 68 cents right now, but this version has new art, so maybe it'll be 69 cents, brother. There's not a ton of value in the reprints, but the talismans are there. Arcane Signet, Soul Ring, of course. So we have this deck that's all about artifacts and energy, but has a bunch of random dudes in there. So how do we upgrade this thing with Dr. Lee at the helm? We add more artifact synergy, brother. Alright, first thing first, we get rid of some pretty awful mana rocks, these bobbleheads. Get rid of those things. Add in some signets, dude. I also smoothed out the mana base. If you have the tapped artifact lands, we don't need the tapped scry temples too. It's too many tapped lands, man. If you goldfish this deck, it's like you do something every other turn. The mana bases in these decks are such garbage. I don't know why. Like, at least give us some lands that don't enter, tapped. Although I'm hyped to finish this Signet land cycle, I don't think that they will be worth a ton, looking at their counterparts. And what the heck are they thinking, making a deck without the Ornithopter of Paradise? It's an artifact creature, he's a beautiful guy out there, he fixes our mana. Like to take a ride on him, you know what I'm saying? Now I did talk a little bit about Enthusiastic Mechanaut. He's a disgusting little creature, look at him, just an air goblin, dude. He's a mess, but he's great in this deck and he's an artifact himself. Cost reducers are going to pay for themselves 5 times over. Now, I obviously didn't add this to the budget upgrade because it's like 25 bucks, but we do have a Mystic Forge in here, so we could add cost reducers, tutors, and Sensei's Divining Top for infinite draw, infinite energy with our commander on the battlefield, but that's a little sweaty for a modified Precon. If you want more info on that combo, I'll link the commander spellbook page and you can knock yourself out, dude. Now, Nettlecyst is of course a staple in an artifact-centered deck, gives our beaters a little bit of a beefy bite in the balls, buddy. We got rid of some of the humans and slapped in a lot more artifacts. We also added the old Bronze Guardian, 4 and a white for an artifact creature golem. It's a star 5 double strike, has ward 2. Other artifacts you control have ward 2. Fantastic. Bronze Guardian's power is equal to the number of artifacts you control. This guy is what happens when that statue of Goro in the crypt from MK11 comes to life, starts slapping all your opponents in the face. This deck needs some closers, man. How about Traxos, dude? You're going to be casting those artifact spells and those legendaries. Joyra is also cheap as heck right now. Speaking of historics, this is just a great enabler. Plus, she's a beautiful lady out there. Can never get enough of that in Magic the Gathering. Thunderhawk Gunship. The Brotherhood of Steel is going to be a ton more effective with a gunship to ride around in, brother. This thing gives all your creatures flying. You just bash in with all these big artifact creatures. This thing's about $5 right now. Gonti's Aether Heart, 6 generic mana for a legendary artifact. When it or another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you get 2 energy counters, pay 8 of them, exile it, take an extra turn after this one. This is great in an energy deck, brother. You're well on your way when you cast this thing. If Lee is out there, you get 3 right there, man. In total, the additions are like 25 bucks to smooth out this deck. Honestly, while Dr. Lee is an excellent value commander, it's not a crazy powerful strategy when things like Brea exist out there in the world. You aren't really cheating anything in, you aren't creating massive amounts of mana. It's a fair commander, a nice value commander that can trade energy for cards, low to mid power tables. Vehicles that come in with their own little dudes are pretty nice with Dr. Lee too. That's a decent way to go if you just want to build around for vehicles. And there are lots of payoffs you can include within this color identity. You could also just stack it with some non-creature artifacts and build into Elsha of the Infinite type payoffs, Jeskai Ascendancy, Whirlwind of Thought. We also have a commander with an activated ability, so cards that enable that and capitalize that are pretty fantastic. 1000-Year Elixir, another artifact, might be worth a look. This was a pricey card once upon a time and is now back up to about $10 or so. Also just wanted to highlight one more addition, the Auton Soldier. This guy ticks all the boxes we want for this deck and is up to about $4. 4 blue for an artifact creature, Alien Soldier. It's a 0/0. You may have it enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it isn't legendary. It's an artifact in addition to its other types and has Myriad. So this is an artifact that can copy any of the beaters we put out there, fits right into the Fallout universe with its little synth-like appearance. Kind of looks like Don Johnson a little bit. Overall, Dr. Lee is a pretty decent artifact creature commander, using her abilities to give them haste and smack in, dude. But you know, for the purposes of this video, we want to keep some of the Fallout theme and character, so I opted to keep some suboptimal creatures and beef up that artifact creature theme. So check out the deck list. Of course, it's going to be linked. Like and subscribe, and if you like these videos, you can buy me a coffee at the link in the description if you want. Remember, you are a fantastic person, you have a lot to offer the world, and there are people out there who love you, just like old Nikki G. Signing off.